Alright, welcome back to part 2. Thanks for making a contribution to the collection as well. And I'll pass the microphone over to Ruth for any questions you might have. I've got a couple, but I should let other people have a go first. There you go.
Can I just say, I don't want to be rude, but my train is at 3 minutes past 10. So
I thought it was 3 minutes past 9. No, that's okay.
No.
I can manage to get you there for then.
Oh, I thought it was only polite to say in case I had to suddenly get up and go.
Okay. Yes.
Could I ask, was Julia Lloyd connected with the Lloyd banking family?
Yes.
Yes.
The Lloyd family was huge. I mean, those who did marry and have children tended to have a lot of children, and amongst the Quakers, they were very much a group that intermarried. Now, some of them, it was still, right up until the late 19th century, if you were a Quaker and you married out, the Quakers disavowed you. Although some of them weren't quite so strict about that. So, times were changing, and amongst the Quakers, ideas and beliefs were changing as well. So, without going into all that, there were divisions amongst them. Now, the Lloyd family were very much from the bankers, but by this time, Julia Lloyd's part of the family were not in banking. Her father, in fact, had been an industrialist in Wednesbury, and they moved to what had become one of the Lloyd family homes, called Farm.
Farm.
Yes.
It's in Farm Park.
That's right.
And the
yes.
first Lloyd's Bank in the world is at the bottom of Farm Road on the Stratford Road.
Yes.
And it's been rebuilt several times, but that's the site of the original Lloyd's Bank.
And it's very confusing because it was a farm, but it was called Farm. So, when you're reading the documents, it often looks funny saying, well, the children were invited to farm, but that was the name of the bit. But it was, of course, it wasn't far from the Greek kindergarten, but she entertained all of them, all the children from both kindergartens at her home, and had them sort of getting tractors, pulling wagons through Birmingham to get them there.
And as you say, Farm, the house is still there.
Yeah.
If you've never been,
well, I haven't actually been there. I've looked it up on a map because, well, I don't live in Birmingham.
No.
When I come in, I'm supposed to be retired, but I come in quite a bit. This is already my second time this week. So, but when I come in, it's always to do something specific. So I must go there sometime.
It's in the middle of Farm Park. It's more or less a square park with a square building right in the middle. It's a very interesting sort of location.
Whereabouts is it?
Yes.
It's just a park. It's just called Farm Park.
You go along Stratford Road from Camp Hill, about 250 yards. You come to Farm Road. You just go up Farm Road and there's Farm Park.
I've got a little link with Farm.
Yes, it used to be, and that was the site of the original.
Okay.
It's in a park, became a park, and that's where I spent my childhood playing football and cricket. I lived not 50 yards from the farm, in Samson Road, named after Samson Lloyd.
Yes, Samson Lloyd. Now, he was one of the big banking lot, wasn't
Indeed.
he? Yeah.
The cellar at Farm was our air raid shelter in the war.
Wow, gosh. That's amazing.
Okay, John?
Another connection. You mentioned women's settlement and settlement nursery. Near to us on the Stratford Road, there's the settlement shop. Is there any connection between these, do you think?
I don't know. The other people here might know better.
Birmingham settlement. The settlement shops.
And Birmingham settlement is an offshoot of this?
Birmingham settlement is what is now called the women's settlement.
The women's settlement.
I see. Yes.
The whole idea of settlements was something that took off from the 1880s. There were one or two in London that were quite famous, and they were originally set up for university men, undergraduates and postgraduates to go to learn to live amongst the poor. And it was part of the kind of civic ideal that was being pushed forward at that time from people like T.H. Green, Passmore, Edwards, Toynbee Hall. All these were settlements that were set up. But then some women started settlements as well, and Birmingham, the women's settlement was part of that ideal. So that when it was first set up, in the houses that I showed you, in fact they had 5 houses in Colmore Terrace as it was then, and some young women lived there permanently to help everything that was going on. And they had a warden, and then other people were going in for the day, and helping. And they had ever such a lot of things going on. I mean, I was talking about the kindergarten there, but they had a lot of girls' clubs, and in particular they set up classes and things for girls to go to, 14 to 16-year-olds after work, because they had nowhere to continue their education. But what struck me with all the things that Julia Lloyd was concerned with, she was very concerned about the mothers. And although, she thought that some of them needed to be taught how to bring up their children better, she was actually saying, don't people realise that one of the reasons why poor people find it hard to bring up their children is because they haven't got the means to do it? They're all living in one room. They haven't got enough bedrooms. They don't have running water, even then, in some places. They don't have the sanitation. They don't have access to fresh air. So how can we expect them to do all these things? We've got to do it for them. So I found that, because I find the whole class thing very interesting. And, there's... One of my prejudices would be, here go the bountiful, helping the rest again. But Julia Lloyd and some of these others, and Mary Sturge was the same, and some of the others I've looked at, they really did appreciate the fact that they had material means that other women lacked. And they also had access to culture that other women lacked. So the idea, of putting up lovely pictures on the walls and having animals and everything, I think they considering they were dealing with children who were in a big industrial city, the fact that they kept on about watching craftspeople you can take either way, it was like a hankering back, it's like a Christmas card hankering back to an age that people didn't live in, or these people didn't live in. But nevertheless, I mean, the children obviously enjoyed it. I mean, the mothers were desperate when, in the First World War, Greek was taken over and the kindergarten eventually came to a stop there. And when they knew that it had to move to Selly-Oak, they were desperate about it. They, people were queuing up to get their children into the kindergarten. And some of the helpers there had been former pupils. I mean, and the same at the settlement. They were very popular, and there were so many initiatives that were set up for working people that were not popular, that were seen as, here they are telling us how to live our lives, let them try it, and these things were. So I think that was interesting. And it was the same on the Cadburys, of course, which, a lot's been written about that, but Elizabeth Cadbury particularly, I mean, she did so much for the people who worked at Bourneville and so on. And they had money, But they tried the best they could to share it, you know. And I find, I don't know, have you been to Woodbrook, you know, the
Yes.
which is lovely, isn't it? Lovely, lovely place. Well, that was Elizabeth Cadbury's home, you know, when she first got married, and her husband already had 5 children and she had 5 more. And they decided the house wasn't big enough for them and their 10 children. Well, I mean, I'd been to a conference of over 100 people there. But nevertheless, when they moved out, they gave it. You know, they didn't sell it, they gave it to the Quaker community to be used for education forever after.
That's a very common characteristic in Birmingham. There are a lot of places, for instance, the university and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital is on land.
Yes.
It was given to the City Council by the Cadburys on the basis that it would never be used for anything except education or health or public use.
Yes.
So it cannot be built on.
Yeah.
And it can't have
Isn't that
industrial
wonderful?
development. And that's very important.
Yes.
And I was a governor, well, I'm still a trustee of the charity at Uffcombe School, which again was Cadbury land. And
Yes.
that again has, I've forgotten what the technical legal term is, but it's bound to be used only for education.
Yes.
And these are I mean, we're living in an age where it seems you can sell off anything,
Yes.
and the government wants us to sell off
Yes.
anything. And it's great that we've got so much of Birmingham that they cannot sell off,
Yes.
unless the law is changed, and of course
Yes.
that can happen.
Yeah.
But
It would be
at
a
the
great
moment,
shame.
they're legally bound
Yes.
to use so much stuff, so much land just for public use.
Yes.
Did you put your hand up, Karen?